by the town committee, by Chelmsford Telemedia, and 980 WCAP. Welcome. There is nothing, especially today, more important than voting. And we on the town committee hearken back to something that Tip O'Neill said many, many times. All politics is local. Nothing can be more local than nonpartisan town elections. The Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee exists to promote good government. Good government starts with our election. I apologize that the election is on April Fool's Day, but the rule is the first Tuesday after the first Monday, or it should have been the first Tuesday after the first Monday in April. Then it would have been a week from April Fool's Day, but the town has it as the first Tuesday. So there is no pun intended, and I can assure you the results of the election will be binding and legal. Our moderator tonight is Joe Reddy, a very well-known individual in town, and I am going to let Joe take over, introduce our candidates, and go over the rules of the debate. Once again, for those of you here in person, welcome. For those of you listening, welcome. And for those of you on Chelmsford Telemedia, hi. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance before I turn things over to Joe. And I'd also like members of the town committee to stand up, not just to be recognized, but so that you can see their faces and know who to go to. So, committee members, if you would stand quickly. And please give them a round of applause. And while they're standing, let's have everybody else stand as we honor our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Mr. Reddy, the room is yours.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sam Polton. Thank you to the Democratic Town Committee for allowing me to moderate tonight. As you all know, we do believe that our local offices hold a lot of power and a lot of ability to create change. And this is one of the most important elections you can vote in. So please do not skip it. Get out there and use this as an opportunity to learn who is running, but follow up and ask questions on your own. I know candidates always like to talk to the general public. So with that being said, each candidate is going to be given a 60-second opener to talk about your candidacy. We're going to give a 2-minute response to questions that are asked, and then in the end, you will have a 60-second closing statement. We're going to collect questions from the audience, which will be asked by myself as the moderator. We'll also allow the press to ask one question. I see the little sun here tonight. We appreciate your attendance. Thank you, Peter. And then, candidates will be allowed to ask each other one question, and we will go around in a round robin and try to keep it fair. So with that being said, we're going to be kicking off with our first race, which is going to be for Housing Authority. We have 3 candidates here tonight. We have Judy O'Connor, we have Maura Snow, and we have Rodney Cleaves. This is for 5 years. You are going to be voting for not more than one. So we will start off with Rodney for his opening statement, and we will go from there.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks again, Sam. Appreciate you doing this. Rod Cleaves. I'm a 31-year resident of Chelmsford. I know many of you still think that's a fly-in, but I currently serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Thank you. Okay, is that better? And I also deliver for the food pantry. And being on the two has given me an appreciation for what the Housing Authority actually does and the housing that Chelmsford provides. I never really gave it much thought until about half of my clients for the food pantry are in Chelmsford housing in one fashion or another. And some of these places need a lot of work. Some of these places are like walking into hotels. The job that David and the Housing Authority has done has just been fabulous. And when I saw, frankly, when there was an opening, I thought I'd go for it. I think it's something I want to do. More than anything, after I retired in 2020, I realized that I need to get involved. I need to get involved more than I had been in the past. So I retired from the Veterans Administration after 22 years in private industry well before that. So I'm here. I'm ready to serve, and I can do a good job for your housing.
Thank you, Rodney. We appreciate it. I'll move to Maura Snow next. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Sam. I am Maura Snow, pronouns she and her. I am a team developer in the biotechnology industry. In Chelmsford since 1997, I have held leadership roles in the Friends of Music, Cub Scouts, and First Parish Church. Today, I serve on the boards of Chelmsford Telemedia and the Center for the Arts. Affordable housing is a huge need. Anyone from every type of identity, transgender people, white people, gay people, people of color, Democrats, Republicans, and the unenrolled, we can all find ourselves in need of an affordable place to live. Our diverse humanity can and does find inclusive assistance through the Housing Authority. Our nation has problems. Our Housing Authority is part of their solutions. I look forward to joining them. Their federal funds, which they manage expertly, will be reduced by spineless bullies with whack-a-mole distractions. There is a lack of compassion in Washington, and I am stepping up to do what I can locally. I am Maura Snow, and I ask for your vote for the Housing Authority on April 1.
Thank you very much. We'll have Judy O'Connor, please.
Thank you for having me here. I have lived in Chelmsford almost 10 years now, and I have volunteered to be on the board of directors. I was appointed on the board of directors for Chelmsford Housing. We've done a great deal of work, especially with David. He's been excellent in helping us with repairs and getting funding and money. He's super at looking for where he can find money to be able to improve on the housing that we have. We have not built anything since the 1980s, so we do really need to make a lot of improvement. Even though they may look stupid when you go there, there are issues. There are a lot of issues that are going on. Even where I am in Delaney Terrace, we need siding, we need windows, we need roofing. One of the people that live there has had, during heavy rains, has water leaking through. And David was able to find us the funding to be able to do these repairs, which is incredible. I'm very proud to be on the board of directors. I'm very proud that I've been to the State House working hard to try to get more money. For every dollar that we need, we're getting only 25 cents, and that's from the state. So we've been working with the state, and now with the federal cuts, I'm sure we're going to really need to work hard to get the housing, and everybody deserves to have affordable housing, I believe.
Thank you, Judy. All right, I will start off here with audience questions, and I will actually start off with Maura and go from there. How can you help housing shortage?
I personally need to learn more about the issues of housing and housing shortages. Some of the ways that can be helped in supporting the board are looking for ways for extra funding. Now, David Hedison is a master of grant finding, so he's really good at that. What I'm wondering is, are some of these cuts legal? Are they consistent with the Constitution? Perhaps what we can do is look really hard at where the cuts are and sue the people who are making those cuts and see if we can't get some of that money back.
Awesome. Judy?
I think that what we really need to do is work on repairing what we already have. It provides we have one of the places that in town had to be shut down because it has so much work that needs to be done. So we had to leave vacant apartments, which leaves a lot of people who need housing without housing. And I had a sister who was also homeless for a year because there was no housing to be had until we could get these buildings repaired. And she couldn't understand why we'd have these vacant apartments. And I said, well, we have to close down a building in order to get other people to fix that building so that we left them vacant anyway. She was quite upset over that. And I understand, and there's a lot of people out there who need housing. We have not built anything since the 1980s. Again, we are working on some buildings on Smith Street where we're going to increase the number of and renovate it completely, which is going to be awesome. I feel like I just, I want to work. I've been to the State House. I want to, like Mara said, I think it's important for us to stand up and speak out and try to.
Thank you, Judy.
Thanks.
Rodney?
Thanks, Joe. There's a lot to be said for both what Maura and Judy said. As far as getting new housing is concerned, mainly what we need to do is invite contractors in. The Housing Authority doesn't actually build. So, we need to find space. We need to find contractors willing to put it up and put it under the proper, whether it be Section 8 or 40B, whatever's available. I was recently at the James Street facility, and I was rather shocked to find two of the apartments didn't even have doors on the front. They had curtains. Right. And that surprised me. And while at the same time, at the same delivery from the food pantry, I went to another facility that was like walking into a luxury hotel. So the disparity kind of bothered me. A lot of what I've seen is just, like you said, I know one lady, I think I know the lady you're talking about who gets her roof pouring in when it rains. But we can do better with what we have. But as far as new housing is concerned, Joe, we're really at the mercy of developers who want to come in, and making it a more friendly environment for them is really what we have to do. The dreaded timekeepers are over here. But we can do better. The Housing Authority just has to be more inviting. And David is great. He's been the executive director for years, well over 30 years. And he attracts good people, and I think he'll continue to do so. So in that respect, I just want to keep the ship on even keel. So, and we'll find him somewhere. We're not that far away from meeting our 40B commitments, but I think we need to go over that. We need more.
Thank you. With that being said, I'll actually kick off again, but with Rodney this time. What are your thoughts on building mixed market rate units versus building all 100 affordable complexes or even voucher systems? Do you have any thoughts on how you'd like to approach that as a housing authority member?
I honestly don't know if I have any thoughts on that because, again, we're up to what the contractors can build and what their finances and how they structure the money for that. The Housing Authority can work with them, certainly, to decide how they want to partition things out. I know in some cases, if you've got a 3-bedroom apartment, it by definition has to go into a different category than, say, a 1-bedroom apartment. Or in some cases, you may have 2 duplex in a row and 1 single-family house in a row, and they have to be marketed as 2 different types of things. One is affordable housing, the other one is Section 8. So really, personally, I don't have any issue with mixed market, buildings, but it has to be something that we work on, look at, and build with care. Really, the whole thing comes down to common sense.
Thank you, Rodney. Maura? If you need me to reread any question, just let me know, and I'll be happy to reread.
Yeah, this is about the mixed market housing. And
what are your thoughts on building mixed market rate units versus building an all affordable complex or voucher systems? Based on how that impacts people.
I like the mixed market rate units as long as they continue to stay affordable. My concern is that if we open them up as, okay, this is 10% affordable, but what is affordable? Whose income levels are we talking about that we're going to meet in terms of affordability? So I feel like for the Housing Authority to stay right on it, if someone has built mixed market and there's affordable housing, then let the Housing Authority stay right with the landlords, the developers, making sure that year after year, all of that doesn't just revert to where it's going to the wealthy people. Let's keep it there so that our children and our children's children can actually afford to live in Chelmsford.
Awesome. Judy?
Well, just to bring up the point with what you had said, Ron, Housing Authority actually has nothing to do with the 40B. It doesn't have anything to do with the MBTA, although we are compliant with any of that. But we don't have, we don't build houses. Choice does, but certainly not the Housing Authority. What we do is try to improve upon or add to what we already currently have. And right now there is no buildings right here in Chelmsford, as far as I know. There's nothing new being built. So,
All right, thank you. Start with you again, Judy. On the topic of senior housing, someone had asked, how many senior units do we currently have in Chelmsford, and what can you do to increase units for our Chelmsford seniors?
well, we're working on that with Smith Street. We're adding more units, and we're going up a second floor on that, so that should help. We do have a huge need for housing, and especially for senior housing right now. And we're a little bit behind because, like I said, we've got several buildings that are, well, one building in particular that is empty currently, and that's being repaired, and hopefully we'll get people moved into that. So we're working on it. It's just going to be a slow process and coming up with the money and the finances and the work that needs to be done.
Awesome. Rodney?
Well, that's a gotcha question if I ever heard it, because I could say 200 or 500, and I'd be wrong in both cases. But I know we have 4 different senior facilities and a couple of others that can be, mixed use. So if you want to know how many units we have, I'd guess a few hundred. But Smith Street is being renovated. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I can't wait to drive by and see the construction equipment there. And perhaps Judy can help me. The place in North Chelmsford that's behind the senior center has 3 floors of really nice apartments. Yeah. And so as far as how many units we have, I don't know, but I do believe we need more. When I ran for the select board a couple of years ago, one of the questions I got almost every time I talked to somebody was, how come my children who grew up in this town can't live in this town? And I know that's not senior, but sooner or later they will be, or at least the parents will be. And I know I'm at the point where I might start looking for senior housing myself. But I don't think we have enough, but I don't know what the number is for how many are out there.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. Maura, how about you?
So on senior housing, interestingly, when the planning board has been debating what sort of apartments are going to go in place, it seems like there's a huge preference for the 50 and older houses because it's less rowdy neighbors, I guess, is the concern. So I wonder if we can get involved with them at all in terms of beyond 50 plus and all this talk about age in place. Age in place requires that things be affordable. And so that's another piece where perhaps the Housing Authority could get involved. I also wonder on renovations like Smith Street, and we kind of batted this around when we spoke on Sam Chase's show, how high can we go in Chelmsford? Can we go above 4 stories? Can we go 5 or 6? We can go 3? Thank you. So we can go 3 stories. Not sure what it would take to get us to go higher, but I'd be interested in investigating going higher. And then the school building in the town has been in the center has been fully renovated, and that's senior housing, yeah? Yeah, and that will be coming up. People will be able to move back in there. And I'm also wondering about the, is it UMass property that's in West Chelmsford? Yeah. that we have that could also be used for senior housing. So there are options out there, and I think we should pursue all of them.
We have a question here. The town zoning allows for 3 buildings. Do you feel the town should change its zoning laws to allow for more? And if so, how many stories? I'll start with you, Maura.
Allows for three stories.
Story buildings, right?
Right. Not 3 buildings.
The question was, the town zoning allows for 3 stories.
Stories. Okay. Thank you.
If I messed that up, I apologize.
Yeah. My feeling would be in a town with limited space that wants to retain its green space, the best way to go is up. I think our builders are very capable of making it look as good as it can look. Above 3 stories, I don't know, but it's certainly something to consider.
Thank you. Judy?
I have to agree with Maura on that. I do think that we need to go up. We do need the funding in order to be able to go up. And in order for, exponentially, we are growing as a community, and we do need more space and affordable housing. And I think that it's important that we do go up. However, the funding's going to be a real issue, and I'm hoping that David can help with that.
Rodney?
I'm not sure why Chelmsford decided only 3 stories, but I'm sure that when the bylaw was passed, it was well intended. There may be some leeway where in some areas 3 stories would be more appropriate. More than 3 stories. Like Smith Street would be a very good example for going up a little bit higher. But there are many, many, many people in town that want to keep Chelmsford with its town flavor, if you will. And when people say that, they're mostly thinking of the Vinyl Square area and the downtown area, where we would like to keep things a little smaller. 3 stories is fine. But when we go like to Princeton Street that you mentioned, why not? I don't see any reason why we couldn't float an idea that says, go higher there. It's back where nobody can see it. It's not on a main route. It's behind the scenes. So, maybe it's time to float the idea that we could do more in some areas, but I wouldn't be in favor of doing it town-wide. I'd be in favor of doing it in select, carefully chosen areas. We'd leave that up to the planning board and then, of course, town meeting.
All right. I'm going to ask, Peter, do you have any questions that you would like to ask? Yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Oh, no. These are always tough.
We're going to give the press some exposure if nobody minds.
I don't get enough of that. Oh, right here? All right. At risk of being very repetitive here, what do you see as the biggest obstacles in the current existing housing environment to building an adequate amount of affordable housing?
Is that directed to anyone in particular?
I apologize. We'll start with Maura.
So obstacles currently,
Yes.
well, the one piece is we have far less housing than what we need. And as Judy has pointed out, Housing Authority doesn't build anything. However, Choice, the nonprofit, does build. And I think the biggest need is finding places to do that building and finding the money to do that building and considering going above 3 stories, as Rodney says, where appropriate, not just willy-nilly.
Judy?
I have to agree with Maura on that. Well, as I said, we don't build housing. The Housing Authority does not build houses, but Choice does, and I do believe there's a moratorium right now on building anything right now in Chelmsford, so that's going to be a difficult question to answer. But I do think that Choice, and they have work they've done in Acton, they've done in Westford, we've done several other areas, but that's not going to help people here in our community in Chelmsford, unfortunately. And the only other issue I think that would be to continue to at least go up to the 3 stories like you said. It's the only thing I can see being done right now.
Rodney?
Well, I already mentioned the 3 stories. You asked about impediments to new housing, right?
Yes.
Well, the town's been very good at, over the last 20 years, longer actually, of setting aside and purchasing, in some cases, a lot of open space, which I'm full favor of. And, so a lot of the land that's in the Chelmsford boundaries just isn't buildable, either by zoning or statute or whatever. But we can find land. I know there's a couple of developments that are being looked at. Well, I don't know if they're in progress yet. But our biggest impediment, frankly, is finding the contractors who are willing to do the work. Because a contractor who takes on the process of building one of these buildings is by statute, by design, simply not going to make as much money as they could otherwise if they go into a town like, well, I won't name a name, but, any other town where they've got free reign to build what they need and sell it for what they want to sell it for. So I'm not sure if the housing authority can look for these contractors or just kind of be on the lookout for these contractors. We can go through choice or something like that. But it's a combination of land, zoning, and finding the right contractors.
Thank you, Rodney. Did you have any other follow-up questions?
That was the one for now. Thank you, guys.
Okay. I'm going to have Sam read off a question that he has.
Thank you, candidates. I have a question from another member of the press. This is from Gary Francis, the news director at WCAP, and it's a two-part question. First, how many categories of housing does the housing authority control? That is, people that are eligible for consideration to live in these units. That's the first part. And second, what sort of outreach is being done to make sure that all of those categories, in addition to senior citizens, are aware that there is housing available, specifically veterans, the disabled, etc. And I don't know what the order is, but that's the question.
All right, we'll start off with Judy.
Okay, well, we do have vouchers. We do have senior housing. We also have, like I said, Section 8 vouchers that we do offer. And there's a lot of information out there on the computer if you want to look, if somebody's in need of housing. There's any housing authorities, you can apply anywhere in the state of Massachusetts. And if you were to go to any of the housing authorities, you're going to see all kinds of paperwork and information in order to get housing. And there's people who can help you fill out the paperwork if you can't fill out the paperwork. So there's outreach programs available. And the second part of that question was?
Excuse me?
Sorry, let's give, we'll give Rodney that.
Okay.
The second part was what sort of outreach is taking place to let all the categories know that there is housing available, specifically veterans, people with disabilities, etc.
Mostly counselors, mostly people who are working in the community. They're going to be able to reach out to anybody and say, oh, this person needs housing, this person needs this, and things like that. One.
We'll go to Rodney.
Thank you. I'll start with the second half first, if I may. I have, as far as the outreach is concerned, there are many organizations, like, the food pantry. We reach out, but there's no way you're going to reach everybody that you want. And that's part of the problem is you reach out and you just don't know who needs you. So one thing to do with that is flyers, posters. I've seen posters both at Town Hall, the library, the community center. I know there have been flyers up at the senior center. So, if I recall, I don't know if it was for Chelmsford or one of the other authorities, but it was for Choice, actually. Was at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Bedford, where I get all my services. So I've seen some reach, but and they all have a phone number, and call this number. What happens? You get home, you say, "Oh, I saw the flyer. I don't know, remember the number." But so the outreach is tough. When to reach the people you really want to reach, requires a lot of creative thinking. And frankly, right now, I don't have it. As far as what services are available to who, I couldn't list everybody. The disabled, the veterans, the elderly, the otherwise infirm, special needs people. We have some housing for people that are wheelchair bound and require home health aides. It's all there, but as far as every single ability, or person who needs it, I couldn't give you a number. It's like asking how many units we have for seniors.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. Is there any follow-up to the question?
No, thank you.
And then, let's give Demora. Do you get a chance to answer?
All right. No, I haven't answered
Okay,
yet.
thank you.
Yeah, in terms of what's available, yes, as has been stated, low income, disabled, senior people, and veterans always get first choice on there, and then they do try to bring in local people where they can. An interesting piece about the Chelmsford Housing Authority is not only is there housing available, but if you're in a position where you need some assistance to be able to move yourself forward, they also offer that. So it's not just housing, it's housing and all of the assistance that might be needed for regardless of whatever one is going through. They've got that available as well. Now, in terms of marketing, that is a tough one. Chelmsford just lost its community services director, Jen Melanson, and she was a great resource because she knew how to route people towards things. I work with my church's pastoral care team, and we are always looking for options because affordable housing is one of our needs. So I think we can do a better job getting the message out there. I'm not just sure what it is. Maybe it's reaching out to the churches and all of the agencies that work with people. And I'm certainly committed to doing my best to bring things out there so that people know what is available.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to take a break here and go to candidate questions. If you don't mind, Judy, I'll have you kick off. You can ask either Rodney or Maura one question, and we'll go down the line.
Mr. Moderator, we're responding. We're very grateful for the 45 people in the room. We're also grateful to all the people that are watching on Chelmsford Telemedia and listening on 980 WCAP. And we've gotten a number of comments. First, how interesting everything is, but second, how difficult it is to hear the candidates. So is that the case here in the room? It is not. All right, I would just ask the candidates, for the sake of Chelmsford Telemedia's broadcast, to kind of speak directly into the microphones. And that way, no one will miss even one precious word. So with that, it's yours again.
Thank you. All right, Judy, I'll have you kick off with a question, and we'll go from there.
I would like to ask, we have a diverse community. We have a diverse staff at Housing Authority. How do both of you see yourselves fitting into such a diverse group of individuals?
Fair enough. We'll start with Maura.
All right. I am obviously a cisgender white person. However, I am an ally to all groups. I'm very much active in the community of LGBTQ rights, particularly our transgender brothers and sisters. I don't pretend to be anything other than who I am, but I am an ally throughout. For the Black Lives Matter movement, I've been very active in both of those areas in Chelmsford.
Okay. Thank you. Rodney?
Would you mind stating that again?
Well, we have a diverse community that here in Chelmsford, but we also have a diverse staff. And I was just wondering how you see yourself working with such a diverse group of individuals. That would include, everybody.
Well, I can tell you this. After spending as many years as I did in government service and in the military, there's a, and in private industry, there's a lot of diverse people everywhere I go. I never really paid much attention to it one way or the other. I can tell you this, as a food pantry delivery person, my attitude from day one has always been no one goes hungry in my orbit. And I've never really paid attention to anyone. If they call up and say, I need a bunch of bananas, I deliver a bunch of bananas. I'd like to say, it's not that I like to say. I'll deal with any human you put in front of me. So it really doesn't matter, who or what they are, how they dress, or and I don't care who makes anybody else's bed one way or the other. It's none of my business. So, yeah, I mean, no.
Thank you, Rodney. All right, so I'll have Rodney. Do you have a question that you'd like to ask the other two?
I really don't. The question I had was on 40B, and you're right. The Housing Authority doesn't deal with the 40B stuff. So any question I would ask about that, because the zoning board's very heavily involved with 40B, so it would be an unfair question. So
All right, I'll
I'm going to pass.
ask more if she has a question.
I do. For both of you, if a senior citizen on a fixed income, a low income, comes to you for advice, what advice do you have for them? Where would you direct them? And Rodney, you want to go?
No,
Judy?
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I am a senior citizen on a fixed income. My Social Security day is next Wednesday. I look forward to it every month. Where do I direct them? I guess it depends on what they're trying to do. I mean, if they're looking for housing, obviously we direct them down to Wilson Street. But there are some facilities at Town Hall that could help out. There's also some facilities at the Chelmsford Community Center, although more limited for what you're looking for there. But, I mean, it depends. I mean, if they come to me and they say, I'm hungry, then I'll deliver them some food. If they come to me and say, I need housing, Wilson Street. If they come to me and say, I just can't buy gas this afternoon, that's going to be a tough one. Go to the mobile station, hope they help you. It was just a month ago, there was a lady looking for some assistance at the mobile station in Lowell on Chelmsford Street. And she asked, she was asking people for a handout. And I just went over and put my credit card in the pump and bought her a tank of gas. Gave her my address and phone number, but I haven't heard from her. But she got a tank of gas out of the deal. So, I mean, I guess maybe, the number of churches in the area help people out. It's a matter of gathering the resources. One of my food pantry clients needed to find housing, a shelter. And I had to scramble a little bit to find out areas where I could send her for, shelter services. I didn't know where to send her, but I found out quick enough simply by calling the police station. The business line here, they'll talk to you anytime you call. So, there's a number of resources that everybody knows about, and there's a few resources we have to figure out.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask just one more question. We had a ton of questions.
Judy? That's right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to answer it?
Well, I think you pretty much covered it. There's a lot of
Thank you.
places to be able to get help.
Tough thing to do.
So last question, we've talked a lot about choice. There's some confusion as to the difference between what the Housing Authority does, what is choice, and is there any other alternatives to choice, and any explanation you can give to the audience in regards to that. Thank you. We'll start with Maura.
Choice is a nonprofit that creates affordable housing and builds affordable housing. It is brainchild of David, wasn't he? Yeah, David Hedison, who is the executive director of the Chelmsford Housing Authority, also had the wisdom to set up the Choice nonprofit, which assists financially and with building for affordable housing. That is their mission. And that is their mission across the state. Chelmsford, interestingly, is one of only 3 regional housing authorities with jurisdiction over everything from Boston to Worcester. So that gives us a nice amount of resources. Perhaps if you need affordable housing, that senior that I was referring to Rodney, maybe the housing isn't available in Chelmsford, but Chelmsford knows where it is all over the state, and so can make a referral that way, and also through Choice, which, again, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating affordable housing.
Thank you. Go to Judy.
Mara's right. She's correct on that. We do have Choice, and that it does go across the state of Massachusetts. It is a non-profit, and it is affordable housing for everybody that needs it.
Any further explanation, Rodney?
they pretty much covered it, except, I'd like to expand a little bit on what Mara said. Choice was David's brainchild, and I appreciate that. And Chelmsford does have the authority to help people into other communities. So that's a great thing. But as I understand it, and Judy probably knows more about this than I do, Choice is the organization that goes out and looks for the contractors and helps build the buildings rather than authority. But I do also know that they work hand in hand. I mean, one of the problems we have is, within the town of Chelmsford or the state, or in many cases the federal government, one organization doesn't want to talk to the other. And here in this case, we have the Housing Authority and Choice are very closely dovetailed together, and they actually talk to each other. But the ability to reach out, someone goes to 10 Wilson Street and says, I need housing. I live in Groton. They can provide housing in Groton. That's both an authority issue and choice issue.
Thank you.
That's about it.
All right. What we're going to do is do a closing statement. I'm going to start with Maura. I'll give you a minute to tell the voters why they should vote for you, and please ask for the vote.
All right. I'm Maura Snow, and I'm asking for your vote on April 1 for a seat, the 5-year seat on the Housing Authority. I bring experience in grant writing and grant receiving. I am also not afraid to step up and figure out what is illegal that is being done in funds that are being denied. I do believe a lot of these denials are illegal and unconstitutional, and we need to step up and push back against that. Hoping for your vote April 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, my name's Rod Cleves. Many of you have seen me before. By the way, it's a pleasure to see so many lovely faces and friends. You have 3 qualified candidates here. All of us would like to be on the Housing Authority. I would love to be on the Housing Authority, principally because I want to be involved more in my town. I have some involvement now being on the ZBA and in the food pantry, but I'm gonna step back a little bit here, and I'm gonna say that while any one of us would be very good in the position, we have one person here at the table who's steeped in the Housing Authority right now, as it is, and can keep things going the way they're going. So I'd like to say that on April 1st, I'll be casting my vote for Judy. And I hope you all do too. Sorry, Maura. Please forgive me.
No offense taken. Judy is a wonder.
We've had good conversations, and I appreciate it. I also apologize to your husband, who I met earlier. All right. I don't think this is the right thing for me.
Rodney, time's up.
Oh, sorry.
Judy, please.
Well, that was a surprise. But to be honest, when I first pulled papers, for this to be on this board as an elected official, I am currently and will be for the next few years as an appointed official board member. So I really love what you have to say, Maura. I think you're knowledgeable. I think that we could work really well together. And to be honest, I'm going to vote for you.
Thank you. I guess it's up to the voters.
So I didn't have to say anything at all, did I?
All right. Well, thank you so much to the candidates we have here. And while everybody's out there getting their questions ready, we're going to be having the school committee come up next. So if you want to start formulating questions, and I'll try my best to try to get as many read as I can. Thank you.
Let's have a loud round of applause for the candidates. There we go. All right, while the school committee candidates come forward, it's my job to say we're going to pause now for 90 seconds. For those of you listening to 980 WCAP, we'll be back after 90 seconds. For those of you watching on Chelmsford Telemedia, enjoy seeing us set up for the next round. We are live from the Chelmsford Police Training Room. This debate is being sponsored by the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee, Chelmsford Telemedia, and 980 WCAP. Coming up next, the candidates for school committee. Very quickly, I'm thinking of a number and 1 to 10.
9. 5. 5.
3. We'll just go.
The number didn't change.
He didn't.
Number 3, he paid attention. So John will go first, second.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. We will now kick off our debate for the school committee. I want to thank those that are running. The schools are one of our most vital parts of our town and almost half of our budget. We do have 2 candidates. You're going to be voting for 2 candidates for the next 3 years. We have 2 candidates that are incumbents, John Moses and Maria Santos, and we have a challenger, Doreen Deschler, here tonight. So as Sam had said, we'll kick off with John, I believe.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
So everybody, thank you for coming tonight. My name is John Moses. I've lived in Chelmsford, Massachusetts since 2012. When I came home from Afghanistan, my wife and I decided we were going to plant roots in a town, and we did a ton of research, did a lot of work, and ended up in Chelmsford. We found Chelmsford. We loved the schools. We loved the whole idea of it. And then we went to enroll our daughter in kindergarten, and it was no full-day kindergarten. This is 9 years ago. So I ended up running because I was like, hey, this is crazy. None of my peers, none of my friends, none of these people that I grew up with that now live in Chelmsford can send their kids to kindergarten. And that was the inspiration. 4 years later, much more work than I thought it would be, we ended up with full-day kindergarten. And since then, I've been on the school committee for 9 years. We've weathered some tough storms, including COVID. And now we're at the change of an administration with a new direction going forward on federal education funding. And I believe stability and experience are really what we need in the town. And that's the way I'm John Moses.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
I think we're going to Maria next.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Maria Santos, and I've lived in Chelmsford for 37 years, which is, I'm going to give you a math, 5 years more than 1/2 of my lifetime. I'm a proud naturalized citizen of the U.S. I've been a naturalized citizen since my teenage years. I immigrated with my family to this country at the age of 9 from the Azores, Portugal. I'm a first-generation college grad and for my family, and I graduated from law school in 1988. I've been a practicing attorney since 1988, and being an attorney for me means that I've learned how to think, analyze, look at every side of the issue. Before I make a decision, I do tend to drive quite a few people in the family nuts. I attend both public and private schools during my upbringing, and I joined this committee and ran for this committee because I really believe in public education and what it can do for a community and for an individual. My children, I married in 2000, incredible man. His name is Julio Silva. And I have twin daughters. Their names are Sarah and Elizabeth. And they both attended Chelmsford Public Schools from grade 1 through 12. Both Sarah and Elizabeth, as twins, are, I don't recommend this because they both go to college at the same time. But they're both in college and they will be seniors this coming year. I became really involved in the PTOs at each one of the schools that my children attended. Became the president both at Center School and then co-president at McCarthy. And at one point, the co-president's daughter graduated and I became the president on my own. And so I've learned a lot about boards, but I think one of the boards that I served on the most, that taught me the most, was of a financial institution, of a credit union. I served there for over 15 years and was its first woman chairperson, and then served on the ALCO and the audit committees. And that taught me a huge amount. And I think one of the reasons it's important is because we run a $75 million budget. And you have to understand the numbers, and the importance of where those numbers are going is just part of the whole thing.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Doreen?
Hi, my name is Doreen Deschler, and I'm running to represent your family on the Chelmsford School Committee. As a 36-year resident of Chelmsford and a mother of 4 who have attended our local schools, I have a deep connection to this community and a personal stake in our education system's success. I bring extensive qualifications to this role. I am a behavioral interventionist at the Cortical Care working with autistic and developmentally disabled children. I am a board-certified autism technician with a bachelor's degree in psychological science. My past roles have included reading teacher/tutor and an after-school program director at the Lowell Community Charter School. I was a substitute teacher for both Borica and Chelmsford. I was an inclusion support teacher at the Murdoch Chelmsford Public Charter School working with students with IEPs and 504s, and long-term paraprofessional in a special education class at the Dutel Elementary School in Borica. So I have had plenty of experience within the classroom. If elected, I would work to lift Chelmsford's rankings from Nietzsche's 45th in the state and U.S. News' 88th in the state. And I would do this by getting back to basics and looking for a curriculum that strongly supports basics and gets, children to know the basics before they leave elementary school. This includes reading, writing, including cursive. I believe cursive writing is very important because you limit your child's ability to work in like the town clerk's office or working on any type of old documents. They won't be able to read them. So they need to learn cursive. And civics. I also support parental rights. I believe that we should ensure transparency and answers about curriculum for parents. Promote students' readiness, hold students back if unprepared rather than pushing them ahead to struggle. Teach resilience, how to win and how to lose. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will kick off our first questions here. So one of the biggest things that has been talked about in town is school project. So I'll start with, I guess I'll start with Doreen on this. What are your thoughts on the new school project that has been proposed?
Well, I do believe we need the school. Our schools are getting old. They need repairs. Some of them just so badly that maybe it's just better to start from scratch and make a new school, like with the Parker. The students need better facilities in order to be able to learn. And yeah, I'm all for the Parker School development.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll go to you, John.
Yeah, absolutely. So the new school project is something I've been really working on since I first came on the committee. I've always been talking about a new school. I didn't again, you don't realize how hard some of these things are. But yeah, fully supportive of the school. We have space issues both within the elementary and the middle school, which we can solve both with one building. We can do things with grade levels. We're going to be able to give, and the most important thing is we're going to be able to give these kids top-notch education, right? These guys have new facilities. They're going to have new science labs that aren't broken. We are going to be spending capital money on a Parker building that costs us several $1 million extra a year because of its condition. And so there's just a lot of benefits. But I think even outside of all that, I think town pride. I think we put a lot of work into our communities. We put a lot of work into our elected officials in our seats. And I just would really like to see more of that pride come out in a building.
Thank you. Do you have more to expound?
All
right, Maria, thank you.
I'm pro having the building, of course. I've been working on this as well for the past 6 years. And we have state funding that is going to be made available. Of course, the town is going to have to vote on it and provide quite a bit of money. But we have a problem at the elementary level that needs to be addressed. And very soon, we're not going to have enough space for the students at the elementary level. Doing this type of project will allow us to bring one additional level possibly into this new building and free up space at the elementary level for more students. In addition to that, I think maintaining buildings is very costly. We're seeing it all the time. We have to prioritize the projects. We can't get to all the projects. And if you've noticed, elevators have been a big item lately on our budgets for fixing in the buildings in our town. including our school buildings. One of our existing school buildings, the one that we would like to replace, the elevator, is through the exterior. You have to really think that we are not up to the standard that we need to be in some of our buildings, and having a new one is really important.
Thank you. All right, moving on to curriculum. What are your positions on curriculum and the school committee's authority to manage that directly? I will actually start out with John.
Yeah, the school committee has no authority over curriculum, and that's a pretty simple question. State curriculum's pushed down from the state level issue. We have some flexibility within the curriculum of what we choose and what products we choose. But anybody that comes here and runs and tells you they have authority to change curriculum, they don't. Thank you.
Maria, did you want to expound or?
Sure. We, as a school committee, I think the way that we get to curriculum is through that budget.
Right.
And it's also through policies in many ways. But it's not going to be on, okay, in the school day, we're going to set the schedule. And for the first 30 minutes, you're going to learn this. And the next 30 minutes, you're going to learn that. It's not going to be that. Right. But through policy and through following the laws of the state that set certain parameters, like standards for what's being taught, we are going to touch curriculum in that way. But we cannot make direct decisions on every item of curriculum that's going to be on the child's list for the day.
Doreen?
Yes, curriculum. Like she said, it's a policy thing, so we would have to work on the policy to make sure we're getting the best curriculum that is being offered to us. And then it is up to the teachers to prepare the school's day for the children, because they're with the children every day, so they know what their needs are, so they know what they need to teach at what time and what works best in their classroom. So curriculum should be first policy, make sure we get the best curriculum that we can possibly get, and I mean checking it all out, and then it goes to the teachers.
Okay. Doreen, will send this to you to start. Someone asked, what are your views about the role of social emotional learning in our school curriculum?
I would say maybe at the junior high level, when they start giving you extra classes that you can take, like in high school, when you can pick your classes, and when you get into elementary school, they usually have a couple extra classes that you can choose from. I think maybe in that area, but as far as in an elementary school, I think we just need to concentrate on letting kids be kids. Let them be kids. Let them play. Let them do what they would do. Let them make up their own minds as to who they are or what they're going to be. They can do that. They can make up they're going to change their mind 1,000 times before they get older. So let them change their minds. Leave them alone.
John?
Yeah, I absolutely support social emotional learning. I think the thing about when we think about our life, our entire life, all the way until the day we move on, is social emotional learning. And I think it's good to have structure within the schools, and it still allows kids to be who they are, but just doing it in a structured way. I support social emotional. I think most adults, a lot of adults my age, probably could have used some of that growing up, because kind of look how we all turned out. But I think these kids have a great opportunity to learn and grow and just learn with each other and their teachers. So I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
If there's one thing that showed me the importance of social emotional learning in our curriculum, in our school, was COVID.
Yeah.
Coming out of COVID was extremely difficult for many students, staff, administrators, and school committees. Parents as well, who became temporary teachers during COVID time. It showed me that there is no question. You cannot have education without socialization. And socialization, in my opinion, has a lot of emotions involved. And you need to learn how to deal emotionally in the middle of everyone else and how they're feeling. So these are things that children are learning and acquiring that knowledge as they're learning the math, reading, and arithmetic right along. And today, it's very different from when I grew up. When I grew up, I went to school, and the teacher said, you sit there, and I'm going to tell you what you are going to be learning. Now, remember, I'm 62, if you did the math out. So I'm pretty old, and 9 years of my life were in a Franciscan-run elementary school. So it was very strict. Today, it is not the same way. You are not simply spoon-feeding children the education. And I think it's very important to be able to deal with the social-emotional component.
Thank you. I'm actually going to go back to you, Maria. What is the school committee's relationship with immigration and immigrants that live in Chelmsford currently?
What's our relationship with immigrants? Well, you have one relationship with one immigrant who's now a naturalized citizen, and her name's Maria Santos, running for school committee. There's one relationship. I would say to you that being an immigrant in the last few years has been a tough thing. I had a client call me who was exactly in the same position that I'm in, who wanted to know what the de-citizenship standards were going to be. Was he going to lose his citizenship? And I think that, everybody's in fear right now, especially children who come from immigrant mixed families, immigrant status mixed families. Our relationship is that as public schools, we have to offer education to every child. We are not allowed, and today we received this notice again from the state. We are not allowed to ask the status of a child regarding immigration when they come to register in our school. So we are dealing with a large group of children who are from anywhere in the world, and their status, whether legal or not legal, present with status or without status, is not something that we are allowed to ask.
Thank you. Doreen?
Well, I don't understand why when you make other things to send your child to school, I remember clicking off what my race was and so on and so forth, and asked if I was I can't understand that they don't
Forward you the email.
Okay. But anyways, it's my thought that, yes, we have to educate every child that comes into the town of Chelmsford, but we also have to be compensated for that child. So if they're not a legal immigrant or a legal citizen who is contributing to the town and to the state and to the country, then I would say, I'm sorry, I'm for illegal immigrants being deported, especially criminal ones. But I mean, they came in here illegally. That's illegal. That's breaking the law. That's breaking our laws, our federal laws. You're not showing any respect to this country by doing that. So therefore, if you're not showing my country any respect, and you're not coming in here the right way, the legal way, the way most of our parents came in, then I think you need to be deported.
All right, we'll go to John.
Yeah, so I have a comment. So again, this is a migrant community. This is a very diverse community. We have grown in terms of our lower income. But here's what I'm going to say as a person, right? So, right, all the legal stuff matters. The legal part of that matters, that we have an obligation to educate children. And I have to tell you that when people are checking off boxes, it's state law. So here's what I can tell you about migration and immigrants in this community. We have an obligation. We take an oath to follow the federal laws, right? So whatever happens with the federal laws, we're going to follow those. We also have an obligation to the state laws. One of the state laws is we don't ask kids what their nationalities are or their status is. And then I think most importantly is every child deserves an education. And I can't imagine asking like a fifth grader or a third grader to be more grateful and pay their way into the school. Everyone will be educated wherever they're from and whatever their status is. And it is not up to the school committee or anybody on the school committee to make those decisions on anyone's behalf.
No, I don't agree with it, that the school committee has anything to do about that. But I just think that, we need to be compensated. I mean, every student they have a tuition that is put to them. That this amount of money is going to each student. Where's that money coming from?
Doreen, I'm going to have you answer that then. I'll have you start this question off. Someone had asked, what are the current and projected effects of federal cuts to the local communities. You can expound.
Yes, I can. If we were to not go with the federal government and have the federal government pull their funding from us, we would lose almost $6 million in federal aid. We got $5.969 million in federal aid in 2023. So that's what we're going to be losing if we do not go along with federal regulations, which is no DEI, no critical race, and no transgenderism in the schools.
John?
Yeah, I think they're going to take the money regardless. I think they've always been planning to cut the Department of Education. They've been planning on cutting the funding. I think more importantly for us, right, what is important here is that you have two members up here that are very experienced. We've been through difficult times. $6 million out of a budget is a significant amount of money. It is a significant amount of money out of your local budget that is now going to disappear, if it does. But I think the money was always going to go away. It doesn't matter if we comply. So we're going to continue to treat the students and the staff and the residents of this town with respect, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you. Maria?
I'm just going to clap at that because I agree with it 100%. I just don't see that the federal government is not going to be sued and is already being sued. This is going to be a fight. There are so many things I could say about what lawsuits are going on right now to fight, to challenge many of the positions that are being taken. And this is going to be one of those big challenges. And I think school committees everywhere will very likely band together and we have an association of school committees that will need to band together in order to make sure that we fight the good fight. It's time for that. It's very important. It's a lot of money. We don't have a federal system of education. We have a state system of education, but the funding from the federal government is for students with disabilities. It is for Title I programs to help disadvantaged children with reading. And we now in Chelmsford qualify for quite a bit of that. We have changed as a community substantially in the past 10 years, and we are close to 19% of our 5,130 students being economically challenged. So we need to really have that money, and we're going to have to fight for it.
Thank you. We're going to have Lowell's son, Peter Currier, come up, and he has a question for the candidates. Thank you.
Hello again, friends. I think we call this one a doozy where I come from. And as a follow-up to a lot of what you guys were just talking about, after we got started here tonight, a headline popped up on my phone indicating that tomorrow President Trump would be signing an executive order to eliminate the Department of Education. Putting aside the question of whether or not that's legal, what are your thoughts on that?
Who do you want first?
Oh, yeah. Who do you want first?
Oh, I think Maria was the last person.
You go first? Okay. Yeah. So my thoughts on it, let's fight the good fight and let's sue. It's going to be extremely important. In the area of immigration, we have had to start preparing for the fights way in advance because we dealt with term 1. Now we had to deal with term 2. There are certain things I also agree with that we need to stop. We need border protection. There's no question. There are many things that I agree with that have to be done, but there are also many things that are illegally being done. And it's very important to fight the fight where you need to so that we remain a constitutional and democratic country. The Department of Education was created in the 1960s to make sure that the monies that were being allocated by Congress were getting to the states and dispersed to the local communities. Maybe they're planning to do it in a different way. We don't know. Is it by eliminating the department that they're going to also take away the funding? We don't know. So we need to see what's coming up. But I say we fight the fight.
Go to Doris. Strike.
Yes. President Trump doesn't mean that he's going to stop funding just because he's stopping the Department of Education. He's stopping the Department of Education to give it back to the states where it belongs. It belongs at the state level. That's who should be running our schools, not the federal government. And the federal government is not going to stop giving their grants to the schools that comply with federal law. That's just how it is. And if we're going to comply, then we'll get our federal grants. If we don't comply, we're not going to get the federal grants, whether or not he does away with the Department of Education. That has nothing to do with the funding.
John.
I think you said it well. States run education. So I think at the end of the day, I think you're saying two things. I just have to disagree here. I think when we really look at the Department of Education closing, that money is specific for programs that states traditionally didn't want to fund. So they didn't want to educate Black children in the South, and they said, we need to make sure this money gets to those kids. So all curriculum, all the rest of it is essentially run at the state level, and it's run in local school communities like this. The federal government has no role in telling Chelmsford or anyone in Massachusetts what they should be teaching and what their curriculum should be. That is only falls under the state of Massachusetts. And if they deny funding based off of something that the state controls, then again, is it legal? But I can tell you, I'll go with the lawyer on this one and say we fight the good fight. So.
Any other questions? Nope. We have a couple more questions. The audience has been very interested in school committee. Oh, we have a CAP.
Again, thank you, candidates, for your candor. This question is again from Gary Francis, the news director at 980 WCAP. It's actually a three-part question, of course. So, God bless you, Gary. One, how close to capacity are our schools now? Will the former West Campus project out on Princeton Boulevard, the former State Training School, UMass Lowell campus, will that overstress it? And in light of what's going on with federal funding, and I think you may have answered part of this, what are our short and long-term plans to overcome any deficits? Yep.
I didn't get that, sorry.
So there it is, one at a time, if you would.
We'll start, John.
First is, how near capacity are the schools?
Yeah, so on the element, this is we do constant work on this. We've been working on all of this capacity type questions for some time because of the new school building. Our elementaries are full, way over full, even with the modulars at this point. There's just too many. And our middle schools are about dead, about even, and our high school is low. So when we originally went out for the project, we went for a high school project. Because our populations were a little bit lower, that project didn't end up getting approved, and that's why I went to middle school, but it will solve a lot of those problems by taking people out of the elementary. The UMass campus, I don't think will really affect the schools. I think that's mostly over 50.
It's 50.
Yeah, it's 50 plus housing. Short term, what we've been doing on the committee is we've been preparing. So in terms of the federal government, we've asked Dr. Lang and in the business office to prepare all of our federal funding, our grants, to understand where the money is coming from. And then we're going to have proactive planning on if this money disappears, how are we going to cover that? One thing that we do have an advantage of is Dr. Lang has been great with money over the past 10 years. And we do have money squirreled away to try to minimize impact. But again, if it's the whole $6 million, it's going to blow a hole in the budget, probably about 8 to 9%, something like that. It's a big number.
Doreen?
Yes, as far as the capacity, like he said, we are already over capacity at the elementaries, and I think even at the junior high level, and which is just going to get worse because the town keeps building. So even if we build this Parker School to the higher, demand, they keep building, we're going to need another school. So, it's all, you got to work together with the town. And we got to let the planning board meetings and the selectmen and everybody else know that you have to be careful about how much you build in this town, because the more you build, the more it's going to cost the school department to make another school. You'd have to have another school.
Maria?
Well, okay, I'll start with this. I think capacity, I agree with John. Elementary level, especially at a couple of our schools, it's full. When it comes to the middle schools, it can handle a few more students at each one, and that's because now we have 5th, 6th in one building, 7th, 8th in another building, so that's going to be possible. At the high school, it can handle quite a few more students. So the new building is very important. We're talking about the development, the West Campus development, right?
Yeah.
That was the question? I do think there will be an impact on the numbers for our schools for sure, because there will be eventually families moving in there with children. There's no question. But when the town negotiated the contract, we were able to get from the developer a promise on some monies that would be coming in, because it's a phased development. Because it's a phased development, it's going to mean that maybe we'll get, let's say, an extra 5, 6, 7 students in the middle of a year where we've already budgeted and so on. So I believe the amount that's in there is around $400,000, which is not a lot of money when you're educating children, and education of each one each year is over $16,000 per child in our system. When it comes to reserves, I just want to be real clear. I think that Dr. Lang has done a tremendously great job with budget. It is always where he gets one of the highest scores from me and from just about any school committee member. We are very fortunate that we are able to have that kind of budgeting ability. But at some point, revenue is what's important, the money that's coming in. So already this year, for the coming year, we were not able to get the full $3 million that we usually do.
Thank you.
So I think my time's up.
Yeah, Sam has a follow-up. So
Just for the other two candidates, it was our understanding that it's, as you mentioned, Maria, do the other two candidates agree that there will be some students living there, but the developer, I remember at town meeting, the developer did set aside some funds. So are the candidates in agreement with Maria?
I mean,
No, it's
yeah.
50-plus community.
I mean, here's the thing: is if we're talking about size of the issue, even if it was true, it might be 5 or 6 kids, right? It's how big is the scale? So, if I don't need to be right, Maria could be right, or we could be right.
Oh, if you're talking about the MBTA, if the MBTA goes through, then yeah, there will be a lot of families there. But if they don't do the MBTA there, if we do beat that, which I've been trying, but nobody wants to come on board with me with that. But anyways, then it will be a 50-plus community, like it was contracted to be. It was contracted to be a 50-plus community. So that's what it should be, but the MBTA might end up messing that up.
Thank you.
Okay.
No problem.
I think that's when you said, I think everybody can go back and go look at that development and what was permitted. It's not all 55 and over, so.
yeah, it's my understanding that community is a mix of different components, and so there is a market rate.
Changed it.
And I not as Mara, but the superintendent did reach out and ask to have studies done on it.
Yeah.
On how it impacted the schools, and he wouldn't have done that
Right.
if it didn't actually have
Okay.
an impact. So anyway, I'm going to ask this question, merging this together. There's been a lot of questions about this, but with federal governments rolling back DEI initiatives, do you support DEI in our educational world? And if you do, how will you continue to support diversity, equity, inclusion in our schools? I guess best way to merge that. I'll go with John to start. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, we've answered this question a little bit. I support DEI in the schools. And it's not necessarily like a program or like something that I think of that we need to put in a memo. I mean, diversity, equity, inclusion is just being a good person and accepting people. I mean, so how are we going to keep it in our schools, and how are we going to keep, right? So how are we going to keep it in our schools? Here's what I'll say. Over the past decade, since Dr. Lang and these different committees have come through, we have worked really hard with our students and with our families to understand how to accept people and work with people. Even if the federal government comes in here and shows up and says, there's no more DEI, it lives in all of your hearts. And we can keep passing it on for the rest of time. but I support it, and I'll support it with my life, and I'll support it how I treat people, and I'll support it how I vote. So that's it.
Thank you. Doreen?
Yeah, I believe in treating people equally. Don't get me wrong on that. But I don't want to hire people by DEI. I don't want to have to hire somebody just because they're a certain color or they're a certain race or they're a certain gender. I want to hire the very best possible candidate we can get. And in order to do that, we have to get rid of the DEI because otherwise they're going to make us hire for something other than what a person is, capable of. I think it should be merit-based. It should be merit-based when we hire people. We need to get the best teachers we can possibly get in this town.
Thank you. Maria?
Oh, I agree 100%. We should get the best people we can get, but I don't believe that DEI is the reason we don't get the best people that we possibly can get. And I think that, my background. I started with it, and I let you know where I'm from. I am who I am. I can't change who I am, and I'm very proud of who I am and what my roots are. And I'm white, so, I've lived in many ways in a privileged world because of my whiteness as well. So even though I'm an immigrant and a woman, we look at all these things, but you know what? Every single individual has diversity. It does not matter. Every single person is diverse. So I think it's just a matter of being kind to one another and being accepting of one another. That is basically what it is. I don't go around thinking, okay, you look like this, so I'm going to treat you like this. No, we all are human beings. We all are worthy of respect. And that means for me, inclusion, allowing you to be who you are so that you feel comfortable enough to come to school every single day, sit down there, walk around there, play in the school ground, do what you need to do, and be the child and the growing adult that you are as a student. That, to me, is inclusion.
Thank you.
Can I comment?
Hold on. We're going to actually move now to candidate questions. You can ask each other one question, and it can either be to one or both candidates. And I'll start off with you, Doreen.
Let's start off with me, huh? Okay, Maria, you're saying that I agree with you on treating everybody equally. But to hire people according to their whatever instead of how their merit is, why don't you think hiring by merit is better than diversity?
Okay, it's really important that everybody realize that I did not say that.
No,
I believe deeply in hiring by merit.
Okay.
However, I think it's also important that we don't just simply go to particular places to look for candidates. We go everywhere. So in other words, if I'm hiring a teacher in our system and I want to make sure that everybody has equal opportunity at that placement in my school system, maybe I'm not just going to hire graduates of the school my child is in, Merrimack College, and she wants to be a teacher. But maybe I'm also going to approach UMass Lowell or any other state school that's going to have many more diverse individuals who have attended that school as candidates for placement. And then I'm going to take the best person. So you're giving opportunities and chances, not closing them off. And that's what merit is. You're still hiring by merit.
All right. We'll move to Maria, if you would like to ask a question of one or both of the candidates.
Sure. I'll ask both the same question, which is, what would bring you the most joy in being part of this school committee?
The children. That's easy.
What would bring me the most joy about being on the school committee? It's the parents and the kids, because I have a lot of peers. So I have a lot of my peers are in the school. So Sometimes it's good, but I do love it. I love getting the feedback, good, bad, and indifferent. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy the experience of being on a school committee and helping kids. It's great.
Thank you. John, I will give you the opportunity to ask one question of either one or both candidates.
Yeah, no, so I'm going to ask a simple question, and I'm going to make it easy on you guys. What is the thing you love most about Chelmsford?
The town feeling, the community. Chelmsford's a very community-based town. We have a lot of things that we do together as a community, and that's what I like. I like the community. It's just a great, great community in this town.
Big agree.
I love the people of Chelmsford. I enjoy being one of them. And I love the ability to feel like I'm accepted and a member of the community. I want every child growing here to have the same feeling.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one last question here because it's somewhat local and refers to the budget here, but paraprofessionals are a vital role in our schools, especially when it comes to special education, working with students with autism. Professionals get paid, a lower wage. How would you help retain and attract new people to help in this vital role? I'll start with John.
All right. So I think actually we might be in contracts right now, so we got to be a little bit careful. So we're in contracts right now. I'm going to abstain from that question. We're actually in contract negotiations right now with all of the different negotiating units. I would look at, if I were going to look at how our positions are built, I know we are not on the higher end of the payment scale. We also have different requirements that say like a town of Burlington or Westford, they have degree requirements. And so there's a lot more to it than just the title. It's a lot about how the position's built within the system. And I know it's not like, it's a pretty technical answer, but at the end of it, there are people actively negotiating with them. So I want to be careful.
Yeah. And I'm actually on the committee. I'm one of the groups that's negotiating on that contract right now. So I'm not going to say too much other than this. Para-educators have a very big role in the education of a child. And when you look at the numbers right now, students with disabilities are 19.9% of our system. 19.9%, that's almost 20%. So para-educators have a big role in the system.
All right. Doreen, did you want to add?
Can you say it again?
They had asked about paraprofessionals being a vital role in our special education and working with students with autism. They're typically lower paid. What would you do to help retain and attract new people to help in this vital role?
Okay, well, as a para myself, a former para, and a educator of autistic children and children with disabilities, I know how important the para is. But yes, they get paid less, but they don't have to have the qualifications that a teacher has either. I don't think a para should get paid the same as a teacher. There's no way. Teachers had to go through so much more schooling. They had to get their degrees, their teaching certificates, and everything else. Paras don't have to do that. As far as I can remember, a para in Chelmsford can just be a parent. Any parent can apply to be a para, and they'll help you to learn what you need to do to help. You just go on. What you're doing is you're staying with your people, your children that have IEPs and 504s, and you're trying to keep them up to the classes level because they fall behind. So you have to try to help them to stay on course and to develop in the same is with the classroom, because a lot of these kids don't get pulled out. They just stay in the classroom, which is a good thing. We want to keep them in the classroom because that makes them feel better, more part of the student, part of their class, part of their student government or whatever, student enrollment. And so as a parent, the only thing I can think of to get more is you probably have to, I don't know, maybe advertise more because like I said, I know when I worked for a para in Chelmsford, it was just parents, mostly parents that were paras. So get the word out to other parents. We're looking for some more paras. We need some very good, people to come in here and learn how to work with these students and become a para. And that's my way.
All right, we're going to go to closing statements. We'll start off with Maria and have her.
Okay. I knew there was a good reason to be at the end here. I want to thank you for the opportunity for the Chelmsford Democratic Committee's opportunity to be here today. I'd like to thank the Chelmsford Telemedia Group and also WCAP for televising and communicating this debate. It's an important thing. I think being a Chelmsford School Committee member is an honor. I have truly felt honored for the past 6 years. I would like one more term, and the reason that I would is because I would like to continue to see us move forward in our academic achievements. We, coming out of COVID, had a pretty tough time dealing with things. We are changing as a community tremendously. That brings along a lot of new challenges, and we have budgets to deal with. Those make it so much more fun for a school committee member, and that's what I look forward to. But more than anything else, dealing with the parents, the students, the administrators, and the incredible staff that we have in Chelmsford would be an additional privilege. So I ask you to vote for me on April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. Doreen?
Okay, hi. I respectfully ask for your vote on April 1st, 2025. Together, we can build a stronger future for Chelmsford students, and we can help to have our teachers be at the highest level as well. I want our students and our teachers to have the resources they need to compete at the highest level, locally, nationally, and globally. Again, like I had said, I would be financially responsible, and I would protect the the $5.969 million in federal aid that comes to this town. We need that money, and I would defend it in every way I can. If they say I have to do this, I have to get rid of this, or I have to okay, if you're going to get, I don't want to lose that money. We can't afford to lose that money. And also, as a white person, I never felt privileged. I grew up as my parents were kind of in middle class, but late after that, my parents divorced. So therefore, I ended up in a low-income family, and I brought up 7 children on low-income money. So I did not feel privileged at all being white. I don't see that. My son's best man was a black man, and I love him. He was like a son to me. He was over my house more than anybody ever. So I don't see the privilege thing. I don't see the oppressor and the oppressed. I don't see that. I do not see that in Chelmsford, which is why I love Chelmsford, because I don't see the oppressed and the oppressor. And I just ask that you please vote for me on April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. John?
Thank you, everybody, for coming. John Moses, I respectfully ask for your vote on April 1st, 2025. I've been here for a long time, and I think over the next few years, again, this isn't really a discussion about the national, right? Whatever's going on in the national, and whatever happens up top is going to come down, right? And what you're going to need here is experienced people that understand, that have empathy, and that really want to work with the kids in an empathetic way, and to continue our values, not these values that are now in place at the federal level. I also really want to thank Maria and Doreen, especially Doreen, because I think we don't have enough contested elections where we get to debate and bring people out. And I am glad that you were able to come out and speak your views to the community. And same for you, Maria, as always. I know we've done this a few times. But I love being on a school committee. I've been doing it for a long time. I understand how the work goes. And I can assure you that we have put together the right plans, the right people. And I hope you'll vote for me on April 1st, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Please get out to vote, and also reach out to school committee members with additional questions. We're going to have our select board come up next. If you have any questions, we are going to keep it a little bit shorter as the rules are uncontested. Thank you.
A statement from Pat Wojcik. We are able to go a little bit over if the room would like to do that. I think we should give our select board a chance to answer questions. Do you people have questions for the select board? Yes? Well, I see questions. We'll try to go until 9:10 if you're up to it.
We're going to give planning board people a chance.
Yeah, we'll give the include it because we do have the planning board to hear from. So we'll have about 20 minutes with the selectmen, 15 or 20 minutes.
Are we good, Sam?
I'll read Pat's statement.
Yeah. So we're going to kick off our select board. We won't call it necessarily a debate, but meet and greet, I guess. So just so that those in the audience know, this year you have two candidates that are up for election for 3 years. One is Aaron Cunningham, who's with us right now. One is incumbent Patricia Wojcik, who's been on the select board for a number of years. You can vote for two. There's also a special seat that has opened up due to the retirement of George Dixon. There is a vote one candidate, and Jeffrey Hardy is here tonight, and he is the only candidate running for a 2-year seat to replace George Dixon. So I will have each candidate read a statement as to their candidacy and take it from there. So we'll go with Aaron and come down the line.
Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you for everybody watching and listening and in attendance today. So some of you may remember my candidacy from last year. I was the spoiler that came in to run with George, who was the incumbent, and Pat Maloney, who's obviously a longtime resident and local business owner. We're here today. I'm running again because I obviously did not win the election last year. So I don't want to repeat myself. A lot of you have been reaching out over the last year and encouraging me to run again. And quite frankly, until the end of the year, it was still a little bit up for debate. But based on where things were going, I felt it was the right thing to do. And I fully expected it to be a contested election. So I've treated it as if it was. But for those that don't know me, again, I might not be a longtime resident like my soon-to-be compadre here, having lived in town 7 years. But a lot of you probably know my amazing wife, Alicia, who's taught at Center now for nearly 20 years and educated a lot of your children. And I have 3 kids that went to school here, and they did go to school here from the inaugural Lions Pride when it started at Westlands. We were very fortunate to be able to school them here. And now we actually live here. We made good on that promise, and we've graduated 1, and we've got 2 in the high school, 1 graduating now and 1 a freshman. So exciting times in the Cunningham household. So just real quick, again, town meeting rep, currently serving on the Strategic Planning Steering Committee, which you'll all be hearing more about if you haven't participated in some of our surveys. And on election day, when assuming I get at least the 1 vote and I'm elected to the board, I'll no longer be able to serve because of some crazy state rules as an election official. And that's probably the one thing that I'm proud of, and I describe myself as a local election official. So for at least the next 3 years, you won't see me at Precinct 11 clerk table for those that vote there. So again, I think a lot of you know that I have a lot of experience both in public and private companies. I'm also a former small business owner, having owned a small restaurant and beer store. And I just want to reiterate how I view the select board and what my role will be. And I think being a member is all about stewardship. We're just kind of stewards of the moment. The current board will be those stewards of the moment, working to ensure that Chelmsford thrives today and in the years ahead. And although the challenges are going to differ and the solutions are going to be complex, our goal ultimately remains the same and unchanged, and that's to make thoughtful, responsible decisions that support the long-term prosperity of our community. So I look forward to serving with Pat, Jess, Aaron, and Pat as the select board incoming here on April 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Jeff, would you like to give a statement?
Sure. Hello, I'm Jeff Hardy. I didn't prepare anything. I'd rather speak from the heart. I am a lifelong Chelmsford resident, as is my father, as is my daughter. We've all graduated from Chelmsford High. Both my grandchildren are in the Byam School currently. And I was the first class to go through Byam School. When I started first grade, it was the year that Byam School opened. Well, I'm 60 now, so you can do the math, which kind of emphasizes our concerns about the elementary school and their restrictions and their challenges right now. I mean, what did we build, like 4 or 5 schools that year? I can't remember. It was back when the town had about 17,000 people. We're now double that. And I remember those days, being a kid, driving through the center, where it went both ways. You didn't have to go around the library. You come down 27 and take a left. And my grandmother, God bless her, refused to change. And we all sat in the back seat like, oh my gosh. So, but anyway, I'm currently cemetery commissioner, and unfortunately I have to step down from that because that's my vocation. I've owned a home in town my entire life. My parents still live in town. My daughter still lives in town, and I owned a business in town for many years, and I've been on the parade committee for over 20 years, and member of the business association for many, many years. And I also was a volunteer on our town 350th steering committee. So I've given a lot of time to the town, but this town is my family. This is where I grew up. I mean, I travel a lot, and people ask me, where I'm from, and I tell them they all know about Chelmsford. They shake their heads. I said, look, come to Boston, then drive anywhere in New England. You're going to eventually end up in Chelmsford, whether you want to or not. It's just the way our roads go. So I'm proud of that, and people that I have 2 jobs right now. I survived a stroke 5 years ago, and I can no longer work in the family business. My brother has taken that over and has done a spectacular job. And I now am on the board of our national franchise, Doric Products, out of Marshall, Illinois. So that's given me a local perspective and a national perspective. But it's been a really fun experience, I have to say. So when George decided to step down, I figured, you know what, this is a time to take it to the next level. And I have the time to do it where I didn't before. And, George was born and raised in this town, and I thought it should be somebody else who was born and raised in the town and respects where George's perspective has come from. So that's the reason I decided to run.
Thank you. I'll have Sam read a statement for Pat Wojcik.
This is from Select Board Member Pat Wojcik. I regret that I am unable to attend tonight's candidate forum. However, I represent Chelmsford on the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, NEMCOG, which is meeting right now. As many of you know, I grew up in Chelmsford, graduating from Chelmsford High in 1970. I'm also a U.S. Air Force veteran, having been commissioned through ROTC at UMass Amherst. I'm grateful for the support of the voters of Chelmsford who have allowed me to serve over 15 years on the Select Board. I try to be accessible to all residents in order to address issues that are town-related. I would appreciate consideration and one of your votes for Select Board on Election Day, April 1st. Respectfully submitted, Pat Wojcik, Select Board Member. Thank you.
All right. We'll just ask a couple of questions. Start with Aaron. What are 3 top priorities for you should you be elected? And, what would you like to tackle in the next cycle?
So I think, we talked a little bit about this last year, and now the reality is coming. So there's the budget, and the things around that. And the reality is we've come through some inflationary pressures that have raised the cost, and our ability to raise revenue is limited. And even if it wasn't, our ability to raise revenue on the people going through the same things the town are going through will be really hard as well. So, I think that the focus right now and where my experience plays into this is the costs are what they are, and I've spent a lot of time, and I've reached out to Paul to ask a bunch of questions about the budget. I think we need to start taking the approach of how we're going to raise revenue and where we're going to find some of these funds, because right now, if we start cutting any deeper, we're not trimming the fat, we're cutting bone. So I think it's going to be really critical that we take a surgical approach to our spending, and we really, really need to strive on ways to find additional revenue. So I know the timer's going off, and I want to respect that, but there's other things that I think we need to talk about. I think you can certainly watch Sam Chase's video and refer to some of my comments last year to kind of know where my positions are on this.
Thank you. Jeff?
Well, I don't want to echo Aaron's comments, but the budget. I mean, this is, we've all talked about it, and we have to come up with ways to try to create revenue and not go back to the taxpayers for more money. That just is not going to work, because the taxpayers are going through the same thing the town is. So we got to be respectful of that. And that being said, we have some initiative on the ballots coming up that we can raise revenue, open up a dispensary zoning, which Drake right now pulls in $1 million a year. And wouldn't it be nice to have an extra $1 million in the budget? And I think, the state passed this measure about 4, 5, 7 years ago, and all the hyperbole and the concern about, it's going to create a drug zone, and none of that has happened. I mean, you can call the police from Billerica, police from Littleton, police from Drake and Lowell. They will tell you there has been no issues around these areas because they are stricter than any alcohol store in town. So I think that has to be the focus on trying to find revenue sources. And hopefully, I know the town is all but built out right now, but we've got to, I know down 129, which is where my business is, or where my business was. And I look at those buildings, and they were built during the dot-com era, and they don't accommodate today's business. So there's going to be a lot of money that has to be invested in them. And it's going to take some work from the planning board trying to figure out what's the best way to utilize them. It's a challenge. I mean, but that's where we're at right now. So,
thank you. With that being said, while the select board does not necessarily vote on projects specifically, they do have a lot of policies, and they do have a lot of input and initiative into housing and business and sewer capacity, things of that nature. What are your thoughts on housing as a whole here in Chelmsford and our approach to those issues that affect the select board? I'll start with Jeff.
Well, as far as the housing, I mean, the planning board can only do what the law tells them they can do. And it's interesting. I've recently met a real estate guy from out in Tewksbury, and I said, "What are you doing with all these condos?" He said, "We can't keep them." He said, the demand is there. So, I mean, I agree that I'd hate to see us just keep building condos, and puts more stress on the schools and pulls away from the commercial people. And I think that's a big challenge right now. But, people have to understand, we can look at a project and not like it. But if the law says it's illegal, we can't stop it, because we'll just end up in a lawsuit and spending money with lawyers and whatnot.
Aaron?
Thank you, Joe. The problem is this housing's incredibly complex, and the select board is a policy-making board, and there are other boards in towns that really require us to coordinate with to make sure that we're making the right policies, and we're enacting the right bylaws, and we're getting the right feedback from town meeting through the residents. But I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it again, right? We have two choices. We can either manage the growth and get what we want the way we want it, or we can really resist the growth, and then we are likely to end up with something that we don't want. Now, as far as housing, I could go on for kind of hours on this based on some of the conversations that I've had with different folks. But affordable housing, age-friendly housing, low-income housing, that we need all of those things in town. But the reality is housing is I'm an economist by education, and it's an economic problem, right? There is only so much supply, and we don't have the space for supply, and then there's demand, and even if we say we're going to build more units, if we say we're going to go up in density, the amount of density we're going to add is unlikely to bring the housing prices down. I watched a duplex go up, or watched duplexes go up on lots near my house that are on a lot that's not too much bigger than mine, and each one of those units goes for what my single-family home would sell for. That's supply and demand. Now, that doesn't mean we don't tackle this problem. It doesn't mean that we don't enact the right bylaws to go do it. But let's just not be fooled. It is a very complex, not easily solved problem. However, I want to try to manage that as much as I can, because I don't want to go back to I don't want to come to Chelmsford someday visiting my kids to have it look like my hometown of Stoneham that you almost can't distinguish from the city anymore. And it wasn't that long ago that I graduated high school. At least I like to think it wasn't that long ago.
All right. Thank you.
That's my position. Sorry.
We just want to get through a couple quick questions. One is, and just keep it as brief as possible, will you keep the residential tax rate as is, or will you continue to split the rate to increase the favor for residents or businesses? Yes or no? I'll start with Aaron.
My position remains the same. I have no intention of upsetting the apple cart, but I know it gets reviewed every year, and I think it needs to be reviewed, because if we're just honest, splitting the tax rate takes the tax across the residential pool, which is a much bigger pool, and spreads it over a much smaller pool. That's not necessarily equitable in our town. However, it is what it is today. It's the lowest rate compared to surrounding towns, and I believe it's part of the select board charter to continue to review that. I would like to get more educated on that and continue to see what the impacts are, because I don't think the residents want to run small businesses out of town. Lockheed doesn't care about that rate, but the small businesses and the businesses that Jeff grew up working for, it does matter for them, because they either pass that cost on to you or they eat it themselves. And if they can't afford to eat it, and if they pass it on to you, you're still paying the tax. So I think it needs to be looked at. But right now, I think it's 1.17.
That's good.
We need to review.
Jeff?
Well, I'm not going to hide from my record on that. Everybody knows how I feel about a split rate. I don't think it's fair. And I criticize the 2019 board for taking such a big jump, because if you look at the 2018 report, it says if you're going to split the rate, you do it slowly. You don't do it with a sledgehammer. You ease it up, and by the same token, I think we should ease it back. I don't think we should. I'm not going to come in here in 2 years and say, let's get back to level funding, which is what I'd love to see, but right now it just doesn't make sense. But people...
We'll leave it, unless you have...
No, what people don't realize, that law was enacted to lower commercial taxes, not raise them. But unfortunately, there was unforeseen consequences through it, because the city of Boston was unfairly trying to keep their residential taxes down by overburdening their commercial tax. And then the state came in and said, you can't do that. You've got to go back to level. And the city said, if we do that, we're going to kill our residents. They said, okay, well, then we're going to start a program where you can roll it back. Unfortunately, many towns took that as an opportunity to split the rate and hammer on their business community.
All right. Real quick, there's a resident that's concerned about a 3-minute cap on basically the open session of select board meetings. Would you be willing to remove this cap, as they stated the town manager is allowed to basically speak on behalf of other people for a longer period of time? Is that something that you would be willing to review and change?
So I think so that's always up to the discretion of the chair, as I understand. My position on it is that our meetings we're a very passionate group when we get up and speak publicly, and I think that we need to continue to exercise that right. As long as everybody's being treated equitably and getting the same amount of time, then if a time limit means orderly fashion, then I think 3 minutes, I don't know what the right answer is, but I also know that my understanding is that it may be 3 minutes by select board policy, but if the chair decides that everybody gets 10 minutes to make their point, then that person and everybody behind them gets it. But I do believe those time limits are really to keep the meetings orderly and give everybody the opportunity. So again, I'm not making a policy stance on that, but if the chair and the rest of the board decides that we want to keep the 3 minutes, but allow for exceptions as the topic warrants, as long as everybody gets the same, I'm going to deal with that.
Thank you. Jeff?
The meeting agendas are posted 48 hours before the meeting, and if they decide to allow for extra time in that agenda, that's fine. But we can't break the agenda, because the problem is people see the agenda and they see people going to be speaking on a certain issue. And if they assume that there's not going to be extra time for that, and then all of a sudden we start allowing extra time, that's not fair to people. But if people, send us a note saying, I'd like to be on the agenda and I need 5 minutes, I need 10 minutes, then we should respect that.
Thank you. We'll give you, 30 seconds to just do a quick close. Go with you, Jeff, and then to you.
All right. I want to thank the Democratic Town Committee for giving us this opportunity to speak to you tonight. Again, I'm Jeff Hardy, lifelong resident of Chelmsford, and I would really appreciate your vote on April 1st.
Sarah?
Again, thank you to everybody involved in putting this on tonight. I do believe it's a critical part of the process, and so much happens locally. You really need to get out and vote, and I'm definitely asking for one of those 2 votes on April 1st. But just to kind of wrap up my thoughts, we face a lot of challenges together. I think my experience in the private sector and working for businesses will be an asset, but public sector policy differs from the corporate world, and it's not about profit. It's about people and the critical services they rely on. So while my business background is valuable, it's the commitment that I'm making to all of you today and to the community today that I'm here to work to make sure that our public service needs are met. And that, at the end of the day, is what's really driving this candidacy this time around. So please get out and vote. Please make one of those votes for me, and we'll see you at the polling locations on April 1st.
Thank you. Please get out and vote for your select board members.
We need a much louder hand for the Board of Selectmen. We have the response to the request for candidates to come and debate was outstanding, as you can see. We have one more contested board, and that is the planning board. And by agreement, we said we would put the planning board on last because the candidates were not able to be here early. Are there planning board candidates with us? I know there's at least one who's here. Yes, don't be bashful. Raise your hand.
Yeah, Nancy's here.
Is Nancy Kay here? Okay, while Nancy comes up, I just want to remind everybody, both at home and here, the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee is an elected body that meets on the last Thursday of every month, except July and December. So other than July. What's that?
We are meeting in July.
We are meeting in July.
Yes.
Of course, we will be on the Common in July. We will not meet in December, but the last meeting, last Thursday of every month, we have a Facebook page that is Chelmsford Dems. And just a quick announcement, On April 24th, right here at the police training room, we will have a caucus to elect delegates to the state convention. Anyone who is a Democrat on the day of the caucus can run for delegate and vote for those who wish to go. I strongly urge people to come.
And what time is that?
7 p.m. on April 24th. And last but certainly not least, the town committee exists to promote good government. And I want to echo something that Elizabeth Warren said yesterday in Lowell at a town hall. And this applies, she said, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or unenrolled. It's important to be involved. And it's important to tell your story, what you are doing, and how the government can help you, and how the government might hinder you. And she said, in addition to telling your story, organize, but she said the most important thing is to take care of yourself. And she likened it to when the masks come down on the plane, be sure to use the mask on yourself first so that you can help other people. And we are blessed to be in a community that is certainly active and promotes good government. And with that, I will turn things back to our outstanding moderator, who will introduce the candidate that is with us. And if I might, Mr. Moderator, I have some statements from the candidates that aren't here.
That would be great. You know what? Why don't you go ahead and read the candidates that we have, and then I'll give our candidate that's here, Nancy Arroway, chance to.
We have 10 minutes for.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, and I'm going to apologize because I may mispronounce Marcy's name, but Marcy Comtois for Planning Board. My family and I moved to Chelmsford 13 years ago, and the decision was an easy one. The move opened up numerous opportunities for our children, Kara and Anthony, offering them educational experiences that were not available in our previous city. Additionally, both my husband and I worked in the city where we lived. Relocating here allowed us to truly leave our jobs behind when we were at home. Perhaps most importantly, we found a home where my parents could live just next door, making it easier for us to support them whenever they need us. Chelmsford isn't more than just a place to live. It's where our family has truly thrived. In November, I decided to submit my name for consideration to fill the vacant seat on the planning board. This was a decision I made not lightly, nor one I had ever anticipated making. What ultimately led me to this was my involvement over the past 13 years attending meetings about a new development proposed in my neighborhood. I listened and was in discussions with the board, heard the concerns of Chelmsford residents. And while some of these projects promised improvements, many of the developments and redevelopments seem to have a negative impact on our neighborhood. I believe the planning board should adopt a more proactive approach to reviewing and approving future projects, ensuring that we minimize stress in our neighborhoods, minimize the impact on roadways, public schools, and municipal services, which is a top priority for me. I would love to have your support and your vote on April 1st, 2025. Sincerely, Marcy Comtois, 24 Hildreth Street, Chelmsford. And with that, the floor is yours.
Thank you. We'll give Nancy Arroway, who is a veteran of the planning board and looking to return, the opportunity to give a statement about her candidacy.
Why bother? Okay, so the reason that I'm running again is that I believe this is a really critical time to bring competency and experience into the planning board. I have about 13 years on the planning board. Among other things, I've participated in the development of the Historical and Cultural Preservation Plan. I was on Conservation Commission Land Management for a while. I was one of the authors of the 2020 Master Plan, one of the authors of the Route 40 Zoning Study Committee. I'm currently a member of Center Village Master Plan Implementation Committee. I was a member of the 2010 Master Plan Implementation Committee. I've been a planning board representative to the Historical Commission, the ZBA, and the Concom at various times. In terms of community service, my partner and I run Bits and Peace Farm, and part of our charter is to feed a significant amount of vegetables during the growing season into the Senior Center's Table of Plenty program. I have a career in... Thank you. We do about a ton of vegetables a year for Table of Plenty. My career has been in quality and regulatory engineering and the development of regulations on the national and international levels. This is the skill set that I can give to the town, and that's why I've worked on the planning board for so many years. From a regulatory standpoint, it just fits. I'm an analytical geek. It's just the truth of it. So when we did the 2020 master plan, we were in the throes of COVID, and everything was pretty much up in the air, and we had no idea what the future was going to look like. We therefore did not, at that time, address the strategy issue of growth, no growth, or what's in between. And we put it off. The strategy committee that was formed last year was, among other things, given the task of addressing strategy. And that includes growth strategy. And they looked at it and decided that it needs to go back to the planning board. And that in particular is my reason for running this year, because I believe that the development, the analysis, the participation with other committees and expertise in town to develop that strategy and evaluate it for the good of the town going forward is going to take a considerable amount of expertise and experience. Thank you.
Awesome. We won't pester you with questions. We appreciate you coming here in person and your candidacy. So that is a contested election. Oh, sorry.
Got it.
Oh, she asked for your vote. There are two other people running for planning board, uncontested for 3 years, Joel Luna and Anita Tanini. We appreciate everybody that runs for local government. It is a thankless job, and anybody that puts their name on the ballot deserves to at least get your attention and to have you research them. So please look into every candidate and make an educated vote. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Joe. Can we have a rousing applause for our moderator? He's been getting ready for tonight for the last 2 months, and so we want to thank Joe Reddy. I want to thank each and every person that came in person, and again, our thanks to the Chelmsford Police for giving us this beautiful room, to Chelmsford Telemedia, that's an all-volunteer effort and had us on the air, to 980 WCAP. Please join us again on April 25th, 7 p.m., right here for the caucus. And please take care of yourselves and don't forget to vote. Be safe and well.